At first glance, the US housing market looks like it is finally giving buyers a little room. Prices are not racing the way they were, more listings are showing up, some sellers are cutting, pending sales even ticked higher in May. But that is only the surface story. The real fight is still happening inside the monthly payment. A buyer does not live in the headline price. They live in the mortgage, the insurance, the taxes, the repairs, and whatever is left after the payment clears. With the 30-year rate still around the mid-6% range, and the median existing home price near $429,000, affordability is not fixed. It is just wearing a softer headline. This is where buyers get fooled. A price cut feels like a win, because it is visible. You see the old number crossed out, you see the new number, and your brain says the market is finally coming back to you. But the payment does not care about that emotion. If the mortgage rate is still high, insurance is still rising, and taxes are still waiting behind the curtain, the discount can disappear before the first bill arrives. That is why a place like Las Vegas can offer more negotiation and still not feel easy. And Miami is even trickier. A lower price there can still come with insurance, condo fees, and ownership costs that make the deal feel expensive again. The rate is not just a number on a lender's website, it is the machine that decides how much house your income can actually carry. That is the part people underestimate. When rates sit in the mid-6% range, a buyer can be right about the market cooling and still be wrong about affordability improving. Look at Pittsburgh or Cleveland. On paper, those markets can look far more reachable than Miami or Los Angeles. But even there, the rate still squeezes the buyer. It changes the monthly payment, the debt-to-income ratio, the emergency cushion, and sometimes the entire decision. So, the question is not, did the price drop? The question is, can I breathe after the payment? And it is not only buyers who are stuck. Sellers are stuck too, just in a different way. A lot of homeowners are sitting on old mortgage rates they may never see again. So if they sell, they are not just moving houses, they are giving up a cheaper loan and stepping into today's payment math. That is the lock-in effect, and it explains why inventory can feel strange. Nebraska may look more practical than the coastal markets, but even there, clean homes do not magically flood the market if owners do not want to trade a low payment for a higher one. This is one of the biggest distortions right now. Buyers want relief, sellers want safety, and both sides are waiting. If I showed you one newspaper clipping and it said, US, home sales improved in May, you might think the market is healing. And technically, that headline is not wrong. Existing home sales moved up, pending sales improved, and buyers are still looking. But now look at the second clipping. Mortgage rates are still sitting around the mid-6% range, and Reuters says that is keeping the market subdued. That is the contradiction. Activity is not dead, but affordability is still wounded. So when people say, is the market good or bad? I think that is the wrong question. The better question is, good for who? A cash buyer sees one market. A first-time buyer sees a completely different one. Miami is where the headline can really trick people. At first glance, you see the market cooling, older condos weakening, homes taking longer to sell, and you think buyers finally have control. But that is only part of the story. Redfin had Miami around $652,000 over the 3 months ending May, with homes taking about 113 days to sell. That sounds like leverage. But Miami is not only a price story, it is insurance. It is HO. It is condo fees. It is special assessments. It is the cost of owning the lifestyle after the listing price. So, if I were looking at Miami, I would not ask, did the seller cut? I would ask, what does this cost every month? This is the part that hits real people, because insurance does not feel dramatic until it enters the monthly payment. A buyer can survive a slightly lower price, they can even negotiate a credit. But if the insurance quote comes back ugly, the whole deal changes. That is why Florida keeps coming back into the national conversation. And it is not only Florida. Across the country, Wall Street Journal reporting has been highlighting rising HO fees, and homeowners are realizing the mortgage is only one line of the bill. In Miami, that pressure is obvious. But the lesson travels everywhere. The payment is not just principal and interest. It is mortgage, tax, insurance, HO, repair risk, and then your actual life. Now take Las Vegas, because this is where the story shifts. This is not Miami's insurance-heavy condo problem. Las Vegas is more about leverage, supply, and buyer hesitation. Realtor has Las Vegas around $465,000, about 10,000 active listings, and homes taking around 48 days on market, with active listings up year over year. So the obvious assumption would be, buyers are winning. Except it is not that simple. If rates are still high, a buyer can have more choices and still feel stuck. That is the strange part of this market. More inventory gives you negotiating power, but it does not automatically give you payment comfort. In Vegas, the smart buyer negotiates hard, but underwrites even harder. Then you look at a place like Nebraska, and the tone changes again. Omaha is sitting around $325,000 on Realtor, which sounds far more practical than Miami or Las Vegas. And that matters. For a first-time buyer or a family trying to escape coastal prices, Nebraska can look like breathing room. But affordable does not mean automatic. If listings are tighter than last year, clean homes can still move fast. If local wages do not stretch enough, the payment can still bite. This is why I do not like national advice. A buyer in Omaha is not solving the same problem as a buyer in Miami. One is fighting hidden cost, the other may be fighting speed, income, and limited clean inventory. Now this is where Pittsburgh and Cleveland become interesting. If you see a clipping saying Pittsburgh is one of the cheapest big markets, or Cleveland is sitting around a fraction of Miami's price, the first reaction is obvious. Finally, affordability. And yes, that is real. These markets can give buyers an entry point that coastal cities simply cannot. But here is the part I would slow down for. A cheaper house is not always a cheaper life. In older Midwest markets, the risk can be the roof, the furnace, the basement, the street, the taxes, or the resale ceiling. So my advice would be simple. Do not just buy cheap. Buy solid. Cheap is only powerful when the structure cooperates. Look at what NAR is saying about first-time buyers. Their share dropped to a record low, and the median first-time buyer age climbed to 40. That is not a small detail. That is the American dream being delayed in real time. And I do not think this is because young buyers suddenly became lazy or unserious. The math changed around them. Rates went up, prices stayed high, insurance rose, down payments got harder, and repeat buyers came in with equity or cash. So if you are a first-time buyer, the goal is not to win the internet argument. The goal is to protect your future. Buy if the payment works today. Wait if the deal only works in your imagination. Now renters hear all of this and think, maybe renting is the safe move. Sometimes it is, but let's not pretend renting is painless either. Harvard's housing research keeps pointing to heavy rent burdens, and Reuters reported that more Americans now prefer buying over renting, even while most are still waiting for better affordability. That tells you something. Renters are not rejecting home ownership. They are trying to survive the bridge between where prices are and where incomes are. So the decision is not emotional. Rent if buying would empty your savings. Rent if your job or city is uncertain. But do not rent passively. Use that time to build credit, cash, income, and a real buying plan. If you already own a home, your calculation is a little different. You are not just deciding whether to buy, you are deciding whether to give up a mortgage rate you may never see again. Freddie Mac talked about millions of borrowers sitting at 4% or lower, and that explains the lock-in effect. These owners may want a bigger house, a better school district, or a different city, but the new payment can punish them for moving. That is why move-up sellers are frozen. My view is this: move for a real-life reason, not a cosmetic upgrade. If the family, job, health, or location need is real, run the numbers. If not, your old payment may be your best asset. Now cash buyers and investors are watching this market from a different seat. If you do not need a mortgage, the rate does not hit you the same way it hits a first-time buyer. But that does not mean the deal is automatically good. Redfin recently said investor home purchases fell to their lowest level since 2020, and that tells me something. Even professional buyers are not rushing blindly into this market. Why? Because rent growth, insurance, repairs, taxes, and resale risk still matter. In Cleveland or Pittsburgh, a low purchase price can look beautiful on paper. But one roof, one bad tenant, 1 weak block, and the math changes. Investors should not buy the discount. They should buy the cash flow. Inventory is the word everybody keeps watching, but even that number needs context. NAR showed about 4.5 months of supply in May, which sounds more balanced than the panic years. But balance on a national chart does not mean balance on your street. In Las Vegas, more listings can give buyers room to negotiate. In Miami, more condo supply may still come with fees and insurance problems. In Nebraska, the clean, affordable home can still disappear quickly because the buyer pool is practical and serious. And in Cleveland, more choices may include houses that need real work. So when you hear inventory is up, do not clap yet. Ask what kind of inventory. Clean inventory and tired inventory are not the same thing. This is where the market becomes more human. Houses do not move only because rates move. They move because people get jobs, have children, retire, migrate, divorce, relocate, or chase a different life. Miami has lifestyle demand, but lifestyle demand does not cancel insurance risk. Las Vegas has migration and entertainment energy, but it still depends on buyers feeling confident. Pittsburgh and Cleveland have affordability, universities, hospitals, old neighborhoods, and investors looking for yield. Nebraska has the quiet advantage of being practical, but practical markets still need income growth. The Mortgage Bankers Association is already warning that demographics may reshape demand over the next decade. So the question is not only, is this city cheap? The question is, who will keep needing this house? The biggest myth in this market is that buyers can wait and get everything at once: lower rates, lower prices, and more homes to choose from. That sounds logical. It also may not happen. Bank of America's survey showed most people still want better affordability, but they are slowly accepting that rates may stay higher for longer. Here is the trap. If rates fall meaningfully, sidelined buyers may come back. If buyers come back, the best homes may get competitive again. So waiting is not wrong, but waiting without a plan is dangerous. If you are waiting, define your trigger. Is it a payment number, a rate number, a down payment goal? Because I am waiting for the market to fix itself is not a strategy. So here is how I would frame the decision. Buy now if the payment works at today's rate, you have cash left after closing, and you plan to stay long enough for short-term noise to matter less. Wait if the deal only works after a refinance you do not control. Rent if buying would empty your savings or trap you in a city you may leave soon. Sell if your house cannot defend its price and you need to move before more competition shows up. Invest only if the rent beats the debt, insurance, taxes, vacancy, repairs, and management. This is not about being bullish or bearish, it is about being honest. A good decision is not the cheapest decision. It is the one your life can survive. So here is my final read. America's housing market is not broken in one simple way. It is split. Miami is not Nebraska. Las Vegas is not Pittsburgh. Cleveland is not Los Angeles. A headline can tell you prices are cooling, inventory is rising, or buyers are coming back. But your bank account does not live inside a headline. It lives inside the monthly payment. That is why I would not tell people to panic. And I would not tell them to chase every price cut either. I would tell them to slow down and underwrite the house like a business plan. Buy the payment you can carry.